everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episodes 19, 20, and 21, or 44, 45, and 46 of Kuroko's basketball. And last week was a bit crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I said it in the reaction, and I've thought about it the last several days, but I'm like, I don't know how we're topping this. I don't know how we're topping this, but I have been reassured in the Discord, without spoiling, I've been reassured that, oh, no, Romania, it's all good. It's still gonna be good going forward. And I'm like, okay. I believe you, but I don't know how we're going to top those games. It's just that game against Toho was absolutely phenomenal. And I know we've got to face Yosen. They're like, the rest of this season is going to have to cover Yosen. It just has to, right? It's been set up in the OP. It's been set up since the start of this season. It's going to happen. But honestly, whether or not we beat Yosen, I'm like 80-20. I'm 80% sure we're going to beat Yosen and move on and face Akashi's team because he's the last generation of miracles. Why would we not? We can't lose at this point without facing him because then we have to go back without Tepe. That's not going to work. So it's like, okay, we're going to have to face them. But again, like Toho, how is the big question. And this series does a very good job of making you wonder, how in the world are they going to win? So it does its job, right? I feel like going into the series, even if you kind of know, you're like, interesting. So, but I do have some comments before we start this episode. Green Moth Applesauce was talking about that there's not only an OT3 with Aomine, Kuroko, and Kagami, but there's also an OT3 with Sakurai, Aomine, and Momoi. And I was like, oh yeah, we had like a whole audio drama CD based on their adventures, which I had forgotten about it in the moment until I read that comment. But I like that Green Moth Applesauce refers to it as the one who can cook, the one who can't cook, and the one that eats. So it's basically Sakurai can cook, Momoi cannot, and Aomine eats everything. So it's like they're just an OT3 themselves, which honestly in the last game we got some nice little Sakurai Aomine moments and some crumbles. So that was pretty good. So yeah, I really liked that. Olya Nikiforov, I did not realize this. I realized that Akashi is voiced by Levi's voice actor from Attack on Titan. And I had known that Midorima's voice actor is the same as Erwin from Attack on Titan. But it didn't hit me until their comment that in the scene where Akashi has the cult meeting with all the Generation of Miracles, that basically Midorima agreeing to give the scissors to Akashi is basically Erwin handing the scissors to Levi to attack the boyfriend of Flock. Like, it's great. I was like, man, we got all these Attack on Titan characters all in the same room. Look at that. I thought that was hilarious. So thank you, Olya. Chuya's Hat talked about Akashi, and speaking of the same cult scene, Akashi and Furuhita. Furuhita is the first year that I always forget every time, but I'm dedicated to trying remembering his name. Furuhita is the one that was sent to go watch out for Kuroko, and he ends up getting swallowed by the presence of the Generation of Miracles and Kagami. But the funny thing that Chuya's Hat pointed out is that apparently y'all are just some twisted fanfic writers out there, because there apparently is over 1,000 fanfics about Akashi and Furuhita. Over 1,000. To put this in perspective, on AO3, which is the big hub of fanfiction, unless you're an oldie like me who still remembers fanfiction.net, apparently that is more fanfictions than there are for Kuroko and Aomine. I want to let that sink in. That there are more fanfictions on this site for Furuhita and Akashi than Aomine and Kuroko. What? Somebody might need to fact check that. That's what their comment said. But I was like, trying to wrap my mind around that, and I couldn't do it. I was like, no. So either there are some messed up fanfiction writers out there that are just like, they just took the ship and ran. They were like, we're going to make this crack ship canon, y'all. Or there is going to be more interactions with Furuhita and Akashi, and I don't want to know either yet. I have limited myself where I'm not engaging in fanfiction for Kuroko's basketball because I want to finish the series first. But let me tell you, once I get ready to do that shipping video about this series, I'm going to be interacting with a lot of fan fiction, and I may make it my goal to find the most outrageous ones I can find to do like samples of when I do the shipping video. That might be fun. I'll ask Patreon about that when it gets closer. And then finally, Kelsey said on Patreon, talking about in Almine's memories that he's had in the past, it's always sepia toned, which could be a tie to his depression, that everything's kind of sepia toned, it's kind of muted, all the colors. But then when we see Kuroko's flashbacks, they're all like bright and colorful. So I liked Kelsey pointing out that there is a difference in how Almine sees the past versus Kuroko and kind of how they view each other's memories. And it kind of showcases Almine's depression a little bit more in detail without telling us that he's depressed, but showing us instead. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, obviously we usually have an episode or two before we start a game, so we didn't really have any decompression time at the end of the last episode. It was just like the game is over and we're done. So I'm going to be really curious to see what all we get in between this game and Yosen's, but I've got myself some juice. I am ready to go, but I'm excited, y'all, to see what happens. And we're going to start this Yosen game and just see where it leads us. So we'll see, right? But I'm not going to waste any more time, y'all. I'm excited, so let's get down and do this. We are going to start episodes 19, 20, and 21 of Kuroko's Basketball. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and y'all, let's go. I said at the end of the reaction, I was like, so the good news is I'm not going to end on a cliffhanger this set. We pretty much just have the second quarter to worry about. No big deal. So the good news is I'm going to be watching all 4 episodes next week, finishing the set. That's the good news. The bad news is that I'm going to suffer through all 4 episodes in one set. Because, these kind of games make me so nervous. At least with the back and forth of Toho, you get so adrenaline hyped and it's just like, it's one thing after the other and you're like, okay, go, go, go. Here though, it's just like, with this set, it's just like an iron wall. It's an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. And it's just like, butting heads, and it's just so intimidating and just tense, right? Thank God they figured out how to somewhat score by this, but although them being excited about there only being a 12-point deficit, I'm like, that's a 12-point deficit. We just established against Toho that a 12-point deficit was like the worst thing that could happen, and here it's like, oh, this is fine. I'm like, I feel like it's the dog meme with the coffee cup and there's fire surrounding it. It's like, this is fine. We can work with this. And that was even before Himuro came onto the scene, so oh my God. I feel, though, we have not touched base on what Kagami learned from Alex in the last few days. Alex is wonderful. I love her, and I like Araki. Araki's the coach. I'm liking that we have all femme coaches, like all throughout our major teams, right? We've got Momoy. Momoy's technically an assistant coach, manager, whatever. She knows all the intel. We got Momoy, we have Riko, we have Araki, and we have Alex, who are all like mentors and coaches, and it's just like, it's feminine power, and I like it, right? I like that we have these women of power as coaches, which is pretty cool, right? I like it a lot. You see oftentimes like guys coaching girls teams, so why not have girls coaching guy teams? I love it. And we'll talk about Himuro. Himuro, he has got a chip on his shoulder, let me tell you. I was thinking one thing about Himuro during the reaction. It was like a knee-jerk, literal reaction. I was like, ugh. And then the more I thought about it, taking notes, I was like, now hold on. Himuro, I'm going to give Himuro the benefit of the doubt. I said I was going to try to be more open-minded. I'm going to give Himuro the benefit of the doubt because I think, also based on what we see from the end cards, I think I know kind of what's going on with his character. I could be wrong, but I think I know what was happening. So I brought Whiteboard Kun out because I figured we were going to need him for this, just for little things. Probably not a lot. But episode 44, Kagami with the nice apartment. Kagami with the nice apartment that he shares with his dad, but his dad's not there. So we don't know anything about the mom. The mom is not in the picture as far as we know. It's just him and his dad. I'm assuming his dad works. His dad's probably away from home working. There was 2 bedrooms, and Alex was staying in one of them while she was visiting. So my theory is that the dad works away from home. He may have even worked abroad at one time, and that's why they went to America in the first place. And he works so much that Kagami, he must have a decent paying job because he has a pretty nice apartment, and Kagami gets to stay there by himself. I like that Kagami was kind of almost embarrassed to admit that he was this close, and then he had this place. He was like, yeah, I can live by myself, and yeah, it's a place. But it's really nice. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be something like simple little apartment that Kagami afforded. But no, he's living in the lap of luxury. Although it does make sense because a giant apartment like that is a very American style thing. So, of course, Kagami, he's not doing this like economic small mini capsule thing. No, he's like being like America and being way bigger than necessary. So that makes sense, right? But I want to say this about Kagami. He's clean. He's not like, you see a lot of teenage boys, there's just stuff thrown everywhere. It's messy. There's clothes all over the floor. No, Kagami keeps a neat home. It's minimalist, but it's clean. I like that. I think that says a lot for Kagami's personality, that he's very orderly. He doesn't seem like it. Again, Kagami has superseded all expectations, right? All expectations. I really like it. But Riko just helping herself to the food. She's like, yep, time to cook. And Kagami's like, you just walked in here. What? I like that the food itself, as I throw this to Huck, the food was like a slow acting poison. It was slowly killing them. I love that. And of course, it's the protein powder. Girl, stop putting the protein powder in the food. What are you doing? Right? But that whole scene on the balcony, it happens at the start of this episode set, and it's almost like overshadowed by everything else happening and by Alex. But Kuroko thanking Kagami and them having that conversation, that was so wonderful. And Kagami being like, well, dude, we've played a lot of our cards, so we've not even to the quarterfinals yet. What are we gonna do? And Kuroko's like, we'll figure it out. I like Kuroko's like, as long as I got you, buddy, old pal, we'll be fine. If you shipped Almina and Kuroko, great. I see it. If you ship him with other characters, I see it. I'm fine. I'm not against anybody's ships. You do you, what you want. But Kagami and Kuroko are like in game for me. I'm like, I can multi-ship Kuroko with other players, but Kagami and Kuroko just have this chemistry where it is like they complete each other. It's wonderful. And I love it, right? They got a long uphill battle. They've shown almost all their cards, but Kuroko's pretty confident they can pull it off. It's a very sweet moment, right? I like it. And so then we have them all passing out and then waking up, and Kagane asks to go use the bathroom, and he goes in the wrong room, and that's when he sees Alex. So, some things about Alex. I love her. She's great. She's bold. She doesn't care. She has a thing about kissing people. Good for her. She's hot, so I guess she can get away with that. I think it's fair to say at this point that Kagami does not like women. Not in that way. No, because he's just like, God, quit. Leave me alone. Right? Yeah, no. And he does blush that one time. So somebody was like, well, he blushed around her. And I'm like, yeah, he was embarrassed by her that she kissed him in front of all his friends. And I love that we don't see Kuroko's reaction to her. He's just kind of like, his face is cut off by Kagane. But yeah, Alex, I'm like, Kagami does not care about women at all. I don't think he has a crush on any girl. Just Kuroko. And so what I like about the thing is that Alex and Kagami have a very much like bro sis relationship, but it's kind of like, we'll talk about this because I feel like Kagami, we'll just put Alex up here. I feel like with Alex, we'll go ahead and talk about this. Her and Kagami kind of have a brother and sister relationship. Right? We can't say it's a mom and son relationship. We'll talk about Himuro and her in a second. But we can't say it's like a mom and son because the whole like her being nude and wandering around nude in the house, that doesn't quite make sense. If it was like a mother-son relationship, that'd be kind of weird. So it's more like, you see a lot of anime. Like I'll use Given, for example, and Tsurune. In those two anime, there are characters that have older sisters. And the older sisters like walk around in their underwear or their pajamas and like throw their clothes and their underwear all over the male characters. And they're like, oh, get out, sis. Quit being perverted and gross. Go put some clothes on. That's the relationship that Alex and Kagami have. They're like an older sister, little brother sort of thing, right? And I feel like that's exactly how Kagami sees her, as like the big sis, but also the mentor, right? I feel like that's how they see them. That's how he sees her, right? He sees Alex as like the sister, and he sees Himuro as his brother. So, you know, Kagami, this only child, he's got like a brother and sister from America that he's really close with. And it pains him to have to, you know, battle against them on the court, right? But yeah, man, Riko has her bisexual awakening. If Momoy didn't do it, Alex definitely did. Because I was like, oh, poor Riko. Like, Alex does not care who she kisses. I also think that's a way of the mangaka being like, Alex kisses everybody, so don't read too hard into Kagami and her being a couple. That's not at all the case. She kisses everybody. Don't read into it. I feel like that's the mangaka telling us, the audience, be like, don't ship it too much, right? I think it's definitely a sister-brother relationship, if I'm being honest. But I love her. I love that she played college ball. She was in the WNBA. I love that she's number 7, which is also Kisei's number, and she's a blonde like him. I would love Alex and Kisei to meet. That'd be really cute. I feel like she'd be like, you're a model, and be like, also, her English is fine. I'm not gonna make fun of it. It's fine. I do love hearing Kagami's voice actor get so flustered in English. His like voice gets even more gravelly. It's great. But I feel like Teppei could relate to her, because she talks about having this illness that makes making her eyesight go. So she's not able to play anymore. And I'm like, girl, they make contacts. You could wear contacts and play. But maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe it's just she can't play because of this. And maybe when this series was written, the contacts weren't as much of a thing. I don't know. I just feel like maybe there's an excuse for it. But I like the fact that it allows her to relate to Teppei. But yeah, so she said she played Street Vault event, and that's when she met little tiny Kagami and little tiny Himuro when they were kids out on the streets, right? And that's when she became their mentors, and she started training the two of them. So she goes with them to watch Midorima and the Shitoku game, and she sees they have this guy, Kobayashi Kisuke, who's for the other team. Was it Onita that was playing? Yes. And they kind of build him up. They build him up so that when Midorima and them beat them, it makes it seem more impressive. He looked like a discount Teppei. He looked like Clover Valley Teppei is what Kiyoshi or Kobayashi looked like. And they get beat 109-71 by Midorima's team, right? I felt like for a second it was like Midorima was going in the zone. I thought that was cool because the green energy was coming off him, but we didn't quite see it. I love how unamused Kisei looks at Midorima. Midorima looks so smug that they won. Takau's like, I feel like Takao would be the one like flipping the bird to everybody just out of trolling. But Kisei just looks so unamused. He's like, yeah, of course you guys would win. Like one of those scenarios. I love it. But yeah, and so Alex tells Kagami that she's worked with Himuro when he was still in America, that she worked with him, and as of right now, he's practically a Generation of Miracles player. He pretty much is the other. There's 2 purple Skittles. He's the other one, right? It's Murasaki Bara and him. And she's like, you're going to need another ace up your sleeve if you're going to do anything. So I'm going to teach you it. I like that. She's like, I'll teach you something that you didn't learn back in America that I've been waiting for this rare occasion to teach you. And meanwhile, since Kuroko's like, well, I can't hang out with my boyfriend because he's getting help from his sister mentor. Aomine, what are you doing? Which I'm actually really glad that Kuroko and Aomine got to reconnect, because that end of that game did not feel enough. The fist bump was not enough. I'm like, no, I need them to hang out more. And I love that Kuroko's like, who can teach me to shoot the ball? Well, Aomine is the best one I know, so clearly it should be him. And Aomine, I like that he's like, well, I got nothing else to do, so I guess we'll do this. But I like that Aomine agrees, first of all, that we get that. We get confirmation that this is what Tora was talking about at the beginning of season 1. With the moment that got brought up, I was like, oh, that's right. The wall that Kuroko hit was the fact that he can't shoot. And so Tora's like, you're going to have to figure out how to do that. He's like, you have to teach yourself. I like that both Aomine and Tora in this episode set kind of acknowledge that they can teach Kuroko the fundamentals, but Kuroko's got to make the technique himself. He's got to figure out how it's going to work for him at the end of the day. And that's the wall that Riko's dad was like, you're going to have to get over. Right? So yeah. And so I like the idea that we're going to talk about this. The drive needs a person to pass, or Kuroko will have to shoot. That's the problem with the strategy of the Vanishing Drive. The Vanishing Drive allows him to get past someone, but then he has to pass it to Kagami or someone else to shoot. Well, if they're not available, he's stuck with the ball. He'll have to shoot himself. If Kuroko can't shoot, then they're screwed. And I like the fact they bring up the idea that, yeah, they've seen that play in action against Toho. They're going to notice the weaknesses of it and try to exploit that. So he needs to learn to shoot. I like that. And so Almine, what I like about his character in this scene with Kuroko is that Almine acknowledges that this was not an overnight cure, Kuroko beating him. It wasn't something like instantly made his depression go away. No, Almine still got it, but he talks about how he hates the feeling of losing. And he forgot how bad that felt. Like, it makes him want to vomit. He feels awful. And he's like, he hates every fiber of his being, rejects that feeling of having lost against them. But he's glad that he remembers what that feels like, because it's made him want to win even harder again. It's brought him back to the idea that he wants to keep playing so he doesn't have to feel that defeat anymore. So it's like the depression's not gone, but now he can identify it and he knows what it feels like to not have that when you win. So he's going to chase after that instead. And I love the little tiny head pat that he gives Kuroko, just a little head pat. It's the tiniest thing, but it was so cute. And then Kuroko's like, well, do you remember middle school? Like, Kuroko's so nostalgic around Almine. And Almine is kind of like, he doesn't really remember middle school. What I like about Kagami and Kuroko is that they're both so compassionate with each other. And they both, are so understanding of each other. With Almine, there is a wall there. I think that the appeal of Almine and Kuroko as a ship is that Almine does put down that wall when he's near Kuroko. He does let it down a little bit, and that's kind of the appeal of the ship. I still like Kagami and Kuroko a little better because I feel like they gel better, but I do like how Kuroko impacts Almine and he makes him a better person. So I like it. And plus, if you ship Almine and Kuroko, I'm right here with you. I mean, I gushed last episode said about them being an OT3. I obviously like them. And so I do love that Kagami is like telling Alex to get clothed at all times. He's like, quit walking around naked. Come on. What if someone else shows up? And everybody is studying, getting ready to go against, I assumed Yosen was next, but I'm glad that we established that we had 2 more teams to get out of the way before then, right? So then we have episode 45, and we started out actually with Imayoshi, and the other third year, God, his voice sounded so familiar. When I heard him talk, I was like, I've heard this voice before. I've heard a character with this voice, and I couldn't place it. I'm sure in the comments down below, someone would tell me who that other third year is. I'm like, who is that? I've heard that voice, I feel like, in a million other things, right? But Imayoshi, he can pull off the white sweater. It doesn't fit his personality, but he can pull it off. All right. But he says that he thinks Seirin might lose. And he gives some really good reasons, right? He gives some really good reasons. He talks about how Seirin gave 120% in the Toho game. You can't do that every game. You will be completely destroyed and exhausted. And also, when you ride off a victory, it's very easy to go into the next round thinking that you got this. And you can't afford to do that. I'm doing some coaching right now, and that's always my big fear is if our team wins a tournament, I'm always afraid that everybody will get this sense of, oh, I'm fine, I'm cool, and then the next tournament it won't go well at all, and it's like, ugh. So that's a constant struggle, right? But I like that Hyuga, and the episode starts out with that sense of dread, but episode 45 is far too concerned with other aspects of the plot that they get that one game against, what is the team that they're playing? They're playing against Nakamiya. They get that game out of the way real quick because Hyuga has a revelation. I basically telepathically links with Imayoshi and realizes everything he's just told us, the audience, and relays that back to the team. And I like that Riko's kind of like, I was going to say that, but I'm glad you touched on it instead. Good for you, Hyuga. I like that. But I like that Riko slaps them all anyway. She's like, I still want to slap you for not realizing it sooner. Can I? And I love that Kuroko gets slapped. And Kuroko's like, I really wish you hadn't hit me. And it's lighter than everyone else's. I'm like, God, Kuroko. Kuroko is a grudge holder. And he's kind of a diva. And I kind of love it because he's so subtle. And Kagami's just like, what am I going to do with you? So they win against Nakamiya by 3 points or 4 points, whatever. And Kisei and Midorima and Akashi's teams all win to get their third games to get into the fourth games. We don't know. I mean, obviously, I think Akashi's team wins the fourth game, but we don't know about Midorima or Kisei's team. Because here's the thing. They go against Morizano North to make it into the quarterfinals. So I wanted to break this down just a second. We got the quarterfinals, right? So obviously we will have in the finals 2 teams facing each other, right? And so from those 2 teams were the semifinals, which were 4 teams. And from those teams were these, right? Right, so that's how it looks, right? So my prediction is that the final game of this whole thing is going to be Akashi's team, Rakuzen, versus Kuroko's team, Seirin. I think that the final battle is going to be Rakuzen versus Seirin. That's what I think. So that means that Seirin had to face up here, and Rakuzen had to face up here. So Rakuzen, let's say they came from over here. That's them. All right. And so that means that Seirin were from over here and Yosen was from here. Because that's the quarterfinals, right? And you had semis and then finals. So that's taken care of there. So the big question is, where is Kisei and Midorima's team on here if they made it? So they could either be some of these teams over here. It would stand to reason, because didn't they say that in the Winter Cup usually teams from the same area are split up into different brackets so they don't face each other again? Toho was just the exception because them and Akashi's team were the special bracket, so they were in this round here. Like, they were from back here. This was where Toho was. Okay. All right, they were there. They're out. I think they're going to beat Yosen. So it would stand to reason that Midorima's team is somewhere over here. Now, is Midorima's team going to face Rakuzen in the semifinals? I think so. I think Midorima's team is going to face Rakuzen in the semifinals because they've been building up Midorima and everything, and I think they're going to use Midorima's team, Shitoku, against Rakuzen as an example of how strong Rakuzen is. And I think that Akashi and Midorima have this very weird dynamic that they're kind of on the same page, sort of, or Midorima seems to understand Akashi. So I feel like they're going to be against each other. It's going to be a proving thing of how strong Rakuzen is, and that's going to lead them to facing Seirin. So then that leaves where Kisei's team is. I kind of think that they might face Kisei's team in the semifinals, or a team that Kisei gets beat by. I think that because the only reason I say that is because we've faced Toho twice now, and we've faced Shitoku twice now as well. We've faced both teams 2 times. We've only faced Kisei's team once, and that was way back in season 1. So I feel like it would only make sense to face Kisei's team a second time, one more time here, and then do that. I think they're going to beat Kisei's team, but I think it would be cool for them to face him again, and then for them to be like, oh, look how much we've grown. But that may not be the case. Kisei's team may be over here facing Midorima's team, or Rakuzen. Maybe Rakuzen defeats Kisei's team, and that's the example. But I feel like it would be more powerful if they beat Midorima's team. I feel like that would lead to some good angst with Midorima, right? And Takao. That would lead to some good stuff with their teams, right? Because, yeah, it could be like a moment where Midorima, like, his team loses, and the third years are all like, we're done. Our years are over. It's all up to you all. And Midorima's just like, he has this overwhelming emotional, like, team connection that, like, bubbles up. And Akashi's like, teams, family, Nakama. Like, it's like he gets his, like, sneer on and pulls out his safety scissors. But yeah, I feel like, and I could be totally wrong, but we know that at least Midorima and Kisei's teams are over here. They're over somewhere along here. Now, whether they make it to the quarterfinals or the semifinals, we're not told. We're not told yet. But I want to say that I would think all 3 teams would make it to the semifinals at least. Or at least the quarterfinals. But I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, so we get Midorima and Akashi. We know that they're all going to the next games. We're in the quarterfinals. Yosen beating the last two teams they were up against like 81 or so to 0. That's terrifying. That's a way to set up your team as being absolutely terrifying, is when they beat the other team like such and such to 0. That's just that. At that point, I like my stomach dropped and I was like, well, okay. Like, great. And so then Himuro, here's the thing. Himuro's kind of two-faced, right? He's kind of two-faced. At first I was a little bit not on board with Himuro and how he acts, because I thought it was kind of cute at first that Alex tries to kiss him and he's like, no kiss. I thought that part was kind of cute, and it was kind of like, no, I only kiss Murasakibara, Alex. I've moved on. It's like, oh no. So I thought that was fun, but then he's all polite and kind of jovial around his teammates, but then he goes outside with Alex so they could talk, right? And at first he's fine with her. At first everything's okay. Like when I went back and took notes, at first everything is fine and he's kind of polite. But when he goes outside, the moment that she says that she taught Kagami something that she didn't while he was in America, the moment she says that line, his attitude completely changes. Because Himuro is a damn tsundere when it comes to Kagami. I don't know what his deal is, but I mean, we've talked about it back in their flashback episodes. But Himuro, I feel like Himuro is jealous. I feel like Himuro is jealous of Alex and her treatment of Kagami. We don't know a lot about her training Kagami and Himuro. We've only seen little glimpses of it. I feel like he's jealous of Alex and her relationship with Kagami. I feel like he kind of wanted her all to himself. And some of the things he says, I'm like, you, sir, are in denial, or there's some unspoken, unresolved conflict with you that we need to resolve in the next 4 episodes. So, like, for one thing, he tells her, he says he's not a kid. He denies her the kiss. He says he's not a kid anymore. And I'm like, okay, you're afraid of being looked down upon. You're afraid people are going to look down on you or treat you as inferior. Okay. You have that insecurity in you, sir. Understood. Then he tells her, he says, he says, it's not a children's quarrel. He says, we're not just kids. This isn't just a children's quarrel. And it's like, okay, no, this is a serious thing. He says that he only views Kagami as an enemy. And I'm like, no, you don't. I was like, you want him to be your friend, but you have all these insecurities. And then he says to Alex, he's like, and you're not my mom. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, Alex, I don't think was trying to be your mom, but Himuro is insecurity central. He has a lot of insecurities. He doesn't want him and Kagami to be viewed as kids. It's all right. You're not. You've moved on. He doesn't want to acknowledge Kagami as a friend because I think he's jealous or envious of Kagami. I think it's more envious than jealous. And he's like, you're not my mom, Alex. And I'm like, so I feel like he almost wants Alex to be his mom, but he doesn't want to. He's so insecure that he just like pushes everything away. It's like, it's a weird form. It's not depression like Almine has, but he just psychologically wants to distance himself out of envy, out of insecurity, whatever. But Himuro's got some stuff going on under the surface. And I feel like he gets on board with Murasakibara so much because Murasakibara is not, Murasakibara, I don't want to say he's lazy because he practices really hard. He doesn't want to lose. But Murasakibara I don't think he judges Himuro. I don't think he expects Himuro to have the same. It's kind of weird to describe. I feel like Murasakibara is so simple that Himuro's like, okay, I can deal with you, right? Like Murasakibara does not seem like the type that would pry or want to get emotionally invested in you and pry into like specific personal information. So Himuro likes that. Kagami is like the type that wants to communicate. That's what it is. Okay. Murasakibara is not the type that wants to just pry into your life and communicate with you and solve the world's problems. He's not a therapist, right? Murasakibara is not a therapist. Kagami is. Kagami would be like, okay, Himuro, let's sit down and talk this out. And Himuro's like, I don't want to talk it out. Just leave me alone. So that's the big difference. There we go. But it comes across like he's rude, and in the reaction I was like, excuse me, sir. But the more you think about it, you're like, no, he's just got a lot of insecurities, and he's taking it out in ways that he shouldn't. And I'm hoping the Nakama power beam from Kagami reaches him by the end of this episode set, because Kagami wants to be his friend. He's like, you're my brother. And the reason why I say that he's not a tsundere, because he doesn't like deny those feelings. He kind of plays them off, and that's not real tsundere behavior. But he out in the open has the ring on the chain, just like Kagami does. It's like, come on. You know you want to be friends with him. You're just in denial. So the blonde guy, we don't get his name. Lou is the one that has like the inky eyes. And then Okamura. I love Okamura. He's a big oaf. And he's like, I joined basketball to be popular. And the blonde guy's like, you're never going to be popular, so it wouldn't matter. I'm like, God, these guys are savage. I actually like Yosen's team. I didn't know how I would feel about the players on Yosen's team, but they're all kind of fun. They have a good dynamic. I like them. They're a fun time. I like Okamura a lot. Lou is kind of creepy, but he's all right. And the blonde guy's fun. He kind of has like a Wakamatsu vibe. They're a good team. I like them. I also like their coach, Araki. She is no nonsense, no business. She's all business, no nonsense. She's like, we didn't come here to make friends. We came here to kill people. And I'm like, all right. Her and Toro would make a great couple. Yeah, right? Since he's, Yakuza. We'll talk about that in this episode coming up. But yeah. So, Momoi visits Tetsu and Aomine practicing. Of course she does. It's fun. I like the idea that Aomine ditched their date to go help Tetsuya. Of course he did. And then Aomine telling him not to lose. I'm glad we got confirmation of what he told him, because I was like, if that was going to be left in the dark the whole time, I was going to be really mad. But yeah, he tells him not to lose. So Aomine, again, I love these moments we have with him, because Kuroko thanks him for all his help. And Aomine wants to say, I should be thanking you. But he can't bring himself to say it. I'm like, Tetsuya, come on, man. It's like, you want him to be able to say it, but he's just not there yet. And the show makes it clear it's going to be a work in progress with him, right? But here's the whole thing about Akashi, right? I've had theories about Akashi, talking about him and Aomine. But he tells Momoi that Kuroko, because he can pass so well, he's all about passing. He hasn't really had in his repertoire the idea of shooting. Like, it's like, why would I need to shoot if my whole thing is passing? I'll never keep the ball, so I just need to pass the ball to others. So Aomine comes to the startling realization that Kuroko, there's really not a downside to him learning to shoot. It'll only make him stronger, right? So the idea is that Kuroko could be really strong if he had the shooting ability with the passing ability. It's like, it seems like he's been very limited by what he's learned, because all he can do is pass. So that means he can't do anything on his own. He has to help others, right? If you'll notice, Akashi has not been present watching this game at all. We've not seen him at all. I'm sure he'll show up at the end looking all smug in the shadows, but we've not seen him at all. And Amine's like, Akashi's smart. Wouldn't he realize this? Why wouldn't he apparently he's the one that taught Kuroko the passing misdirection. He found Kuroko and taught him the misdirection. Funny that. And Aomine is like, why would Akashi, who seems really smart, not want Kuroko to know all of this? I have a theory, and again, lots of people have tried to tell me stuff about Akashi in the comments, and if I see the word Akashi in the comments, I ignore it. I can't do it, because I know I'm going to read a spoiler on accident, and I'm so against spoilers. So if you write the word Akashi in the comments, I'm not going to read that whole section, because I just can't. But here's my theory. So please don't confirm, don't deconfirm, no spoilers, no hints, clues, nothing. Just let it sit out here in the open, cackle behind your glasses, raise your full wine glasses, eat your popcorn, and be like, Romania is such an idiot. And I will find out my ignorance when the time has come. But my theory is there's a number of different things. One, I think Akashi is a control freak. Imagining that. I think he's a control freak, and he wants to be in charge of the situation at all times. He's like, I'm the captain. We'll win because of me. And it's like, okay. And so, because he, like, anytime his control over something is slightly disrupted, like at the cult meeting, he nearly stabs someone in the face. So I think Akashi has a control freak issue. And I think he realizes how strong Kuroko would be. And so this whole thing of not shooting is to keep Kuroko in check. Because at the end of the day, Akashi just wants to win. He wants to win. He doesn't want anybody else to win. So Akashi probably was like, well, even if we all go separate ways in high school, I still want to be the victor. So the fact that he might think Kuroko could surpass him, he's like, I don't want that to happen. So we just won't teach Kuroko how to shoot. He can't be complete if he doesn't know it, right? And I think that's the other thing too. Akashi, but then again, there's two sides to it, because it's like, on the one hand, yes, that could be, but Akashi wanting Aomine to keep like falling into the depths of despair, I think it was making Aomine technically stronger, but it was at the cost of his own mental health. So, but that was for the team to win. So I feel like Akashi is willing to do anything he can for that team to win in that moment, regardless of whether it's good for that person. Like that's what I'm trying to say. With Aomine, he knew Aomine was going to get even further into his despair, but he's like, nope, we need to crush the enemy. I don't care about Aomine's mental state. We need to win. And here it's like, oh, well, Kuroko could get stronger if he learned to shoot, but then he might try not to depend on the Generation of Miracles anymore, and that would make them stronger. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to have Kuroko pass. Again, Akashi has an uphill battle with me, and I'm like, yeah, I think Akashi knows exactly what he's doing. I absolutely think that he does. But, So, Aomine is embarrassed by Kuroko thanking him. I like Momoi's little giggle there. And then Kagami, he still cares for Himuro, but Himuro is trying not to be tied down by anything. These fleeting emotions. I feel like Himuro and Midorima would get along, because Midorima's like, it's all in fate and horoscopes and talent. Who needs teamwork and blah, blah, blah. And Himuro's like, right, who needs emotions? And I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting for it all to crack next set of episodes, but maybe it won't. And so, yeah, Yosen, they are a super defensive team against our boys, who are a super offensive team. That can be a problem, an unstoppable force and an immovable object. What do we do? And of course, we set up Teppei versus Murasaki Bara, Himuro versus Kagami. I'm very impressed that this series had the first half of this game not even touch on that dynamic. Not even touch on it. We spent a whole episode just explaining how ridiculous Yosen's defense is and trying to figure out a way to even score off of them, much less get ahead. So that's insane, right? Insanity. So we have episode 46 or episode 21. That's our last one here. I want to look at it and going on there. And just the idea of rebounding. So I'm really glad this show, it's funny, there's some people in the Discord, like Kelsey in the Discord on Patreon was saying, they're like, this show doesn't tell you the rules of basketball. They just expect you to know. And yeah, they really do. That's the thing about this series. They come in fully expecting that you know the dynamics of basketball. You've probably watched Slam Dunk or something else. You know what's happening, and you don't need to be told. So they choose to tell you at certain times, but it's often at a point where you should have already kind of known that. And this is one of those moments because, yeah, rebounding is like essential for basketball. And I like that they break down the reason why. When my mom coached basketball, she was all about rebounds. She's like, you can make up so much in defense and offense if you know how to rebound. Because like Alex points out, most shooters, unless you're Midorima, only shoot 50 to 60%. So when that ball hits the rim and bounces off, if you're able to rebound, you've got the ball, you've got a chance to score. It's like a free gift to you from the other team. And so it's essential that you are good at rebounding. And Yosen, because of their height and their power, they're just naturally good at it. And God, Murasaki Bara is a force to be reckoned with. He's just so big, and he has a big wingspan. His arms are like 6 feet across. He's like 6'10". He's huge. Okamura's really huge. Like, they just have a big, just giant tree root system of defense on here. And the thing about it is, they have foreshadowed to us that Murasaki Bara is good. They foreshadowed way back when they were saying that Murasaki Bara is kind of the opposite of Aomine. He practices the hardest because he doesn't want to lose. So he's got these great reflexes. He's really got a lot of stamina. He doesn't have to move a lot. He can just basically do things like that because he's so big and takes up so much room on the court. But it's also because of his athleticism and the practice he's done to hone his body like that. So I like that. I like that we got all that from before to establish that he's not just naturally talented. He's had to work to perfect it, right? And so I like that when Alex is reminiscing about the rebounds, we see like the Chicago Bulls and stuff. I like that we see the American teams. It's fun. And then, yeah, we go to this OP. Oh, my God. And so I like Tepe stepping in and using this new vice claw technique to keep the other team from scoring. That's great. I love it. And we see him practicing. The moment that we saw him in like the physical training center, I've watched Ace of the Diamond and I wanted like Chris to walk up and be, Chris and Tepe would be like, they'd be best bros. They would get along so good if we're doing like a crossover. But it's also funny that Rico's dad, to be fair, Rico's dad's face is animated hilariously in this scene. There's just something off about it. It's weird. But I love that he kind of looks like Tepe too. And so he's basically tells Tepe, look, your hands will get better if you can build that grip back by catching really unusual objects over and over again. He's like, okay. So then he throws a literal rock to Tepe. And I'm like, well, we've talked in the Discord and the reactions about how Tora is probably a Yakuza. He carries a gun. He has the suit. And now he has rocks that he's bashed people over the heads with. He's a Yakuza. It's how this whole PT business is just a front, right? But good on Tepe using the vice claw. I love it. And everybody's like, Kyoshi! I love Kuroko's animation in these episodes. His eyes are so big and lively. It's so freaking cute. I love it. And yeah, God, 18-0. When thinking 18-0 is a good thing, that's rough. And so they're like, we have to get from the inside. I also love that we get Momoe. Momoe with her like knee-length socks and her ankle boots. And then Almine is like, why did I have to come? Like, I love that, hey, we're improving. We did not have to throw Almine in a net to get him to come here to the game. He walked on his own volition. I'll call that an improvement. And she says, you're the one who ditched our shopping trip, so you owe me. You can make up for it. I also love that they kind of match. It's really cute. Yeah, I like that. I mean, he's so grumpy. He's like, why do I have to come? And I love that he has the big coat on and everything. Like, he's all, it's like representation of him being all, like, closed off. He's like, But Momoe's like, come on, we can do this. And Almine does not seem too surprised about everything. I really love that of all people to score off of Murasaki Bara, it's Kuroko. And it seems like it should be natural. It seems like that should be the obvious choice. But I didn't think, I was wondering if we'd ever get Kuroko shooting the ball. And I think I said like several episodes ago that would be like amazing. I didn't think that I thought if we didn't get it in the Toho game, we wouldn't get it till the end of the series. But we're getting it now, so that's fine. But also, I never would have imagined that it would have been Kuroko versus Murasaki Bara. I kind of like it though. You know why? Because it seems like so far, with the exception of Kisei's team, which we need to face Kisei's team again, that's what we're setting up. Okay, so we have to do at some point Kuroko fighting against all the Generation of Miracles. He's defeating the Generation of Miracles alongside Kagami. So we had him using the Vanishing Drive against Midorima, and Kagami working against Midorima as well. Beat Shutoku. Checked it off. Then we had Toho, Kuroko using his own ability of passing and everything, and the drive against Almine, just like Kagami using his zone powers as well. They beat Toho. Awesome. So now we're going to have Kuroko using the power against Murasaki Bara of shooting alongside Kagami versus Himuro. Okay, so yeah, so it's basically setting up that Kuroko has to beat all the Generation of Miracle players alongside Kagami. Makes sense. So that means that we need to face Kisei's team again so he can do it. Unless they're going to count that first match, but I don't. I think they need to officially face them one more time. I want to see it. I want to see Kisei in the zone again. I feel like he was in the zone against Almine when they were having their battle. We just didn't know what to call it. But I want them to face each other. I want to see it. But yeah, so that means that he has to beat Akashi. He has to. This series is one of the few ones where we know that as a team, they have to make it to the end against Akashi and them. That's just part of it. But it's like, how are they going to do it? And how are they going to make our hearts fall to the ground in the meantime before we find out how they're going to do it? So, but yeah. So Alex is worried about them, thinking they're going to be screwed if they don't do something. And then Teppei, he tries to get past Murasakibara, doesn't work. But then Kagami tries to get past Murasakibara, and it nearly doesn't work. And then he passes it to Kuroko. And I love that Kagami just passes it to Kuroko, and he trusts him that he can do it. And Murasakibara's like, what do you mean when you're getting Kurochin to shoot? Like, he gives him a nickname like Kisei. And Kuroko, that look in his eye, that fierceness, I want to get a picture of that. That fierceness is great, where he's like, I'm gonna do it. I love it. And I mean, he's like, you can't stop Murasakibara. It's not gonna work. It's a vanishing shot. Which we saw Himuro use the same type of shot too, right? We saw him use the same type. So shouldn't be surprising, right? I love it. They scored their first 2 points. And Murasakibara looks so mad at him. I love that. And so I like that we do the flashback with Almine and Kuroko. And Kuroko's like, how do you shoot Almine? And he's like this. It's just so cute. It's so stinking cute. I love their scenes together. But I like that Almine is like, well, just do it like you pass. Just shoot it from your palm. You'll figure it out. I like that Almine, like Kagami, trusts Kuroko in his own skill that he'll figure things out. I like that. I think that's really cute. Their friendship is so wonderful. And Kuroko's just like, oh, okay. It's great. But Murasakibara, I love Kuroko just like talking smack against him. It's wonderful. And so, yeah, they start to get in a groove. And I like that Teppei, when Kagami's like, how do I stop Okamura? Teppei's like, well, it's all in the hips. It's like Sawamura from Ace of the Diamond. It's all in the hips. And it reminds Kagami to like use his center of gravity. And then he's able to stop Okamura and jump and get the ball. So it's like Seirin's getting better. I love Matobe like tries to use sign language to talk to them and like explain stuff's not working. And Kogane of all people gets it. And he's like, I think this is what Matobe was saying. And it's like, I love it. I love it. I wish Matobe could do more in this game, but I feel like it's going to be these guys. Although they do the whole thing with subbing Kuroko out, right? To get Murasakibara against Teppei. Mm-hmm. Murasakibara, his purple hair is gorgeous. Like, he could be a model. It's ridiculous how good he looks, right? And then Kuroko just manages to get past him. I can't believe Kuroko is giving Murasakibara a hard time, of all people. It's wild. And so both Kagami and Kuroko realize that they have barely done anything in this first half. They were just feeling him out and letting Seirin get like this false sense of security. They're going to bring out all the stops next time. Himuro's going to do things. Because Himuro did nothing this first half. Himuro didn't do a thing. He was like, at one point I was like, is Himuro going to play? Are we going to do anything? But they were saving him for the second half. Of course they were. And then Murasakibara against Teppei. I'm worried about Teppei getting hurt. I'm worried about Kagami. I'm like, so far this series, it's done the thing where it makes you feel really bad for a character and they've hit like rock bottom and they somehow rise from the ashes like a damn phoenix. And it's great. It's inspirational and wonderful. But man, that fall hurts every time. And it's just like, not ready for it. Not ready for it at all. So, and then we get Yosen in their locker room where she basically predicts everything Riko's going to be doing down to a T. And I love that Riko's like, you damn granny. And then that woman's like, did you say something? And Riko's like, she's psychic. Oh my God. But the ring, yeah, Himuro has the ring on his bag. It's like, come on, you wouldn't still care unless you had the ring. And I love that Kuroko's like, I know that Murasakibara and Himuro are really strong and it's going to be really hard, but I don't think you're going to lose to them. And he has like the double fist bump. So freaking cute. I love it. And then, yeah, we just set up that this game is going to be hard. and Himuro being like, I'm going to be the victor, Taiga. Yeah, Himuro just has a chip on his shoulder. He just wants to be Taiga so bad. And he thinks he's got all these insecurities. And I'm like, dude, you need to just get hit in the face with the beam of Nakama. It won't hurt you. It won't hurt you. And I want Murasaki Bara to get beaten so he can join the Kuroko's Losers Club. I need him to join alongside Aomine. And maybe they'll be friends together, right? Maybe that'll be the case. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to stop. But I do want to go through the end cards and the end credit scene before we do that. This game. I'm going to need to rest up and drink lots of tea and honey and get emotionally prepared for episodes 22 through 25 to do the whole damn game, the second half in one fell swoop. Oh, I'm not ready. So yeah, I'm not ready at all, but we'll be fine, right? Y'all will be there with me in spirit to cheer me on. Sure. So we have the end credit scenes. We're still painting this mural that we're getting ready to do. The stories that are in these end credits are so wonderful. I love them. But look who shows up. It's Midorima with his lucky item. It's like Daruma lucky item. And Takao in their orange jumpsuits. I like we have all of our couples here. We have Midorima and Takao. Midorima like jumps out like, you're doing it wrong. And then Kisei and Kasamatsu are sitting there painting together. It's cute. Kagami and Kuroko are painting together. The pineapple guy is like doing an underground deal with our boys, our first years. I'm like, guys, don't take his pineapples. It's too sketchy. But they don't listen because in the next scene, they bought all the pineapples. And I'm like, damn it, no. He's like, and I love that he's leaning on his paint thing there, telling Takao, be like, I sold these suckers a bunch of pineapples for 3 times the price. I'm like, I also love there's so much going on in here. Takao is like about to touch Midorima's back. And if you look, Takao is about to mess Midorima up, and it's going to be hilarious. Kuroko is throwing so much shade where he's imitating Midorima and making fun of him, being like, look at Four Eyes, like trying to get the perfect shot. Like he's blatantly making fun of Midorima. And Kisei's like, that's so great. And then Kagami is looking over at Aomine showing up, being like, bitch, you stole my style. I love that Kagami and Aomine, of course, dressed the same style with the white shirt with the bottom part undone. I love that To's is black. Momo, she didn't want to dress in black. She wanted to wear like an April O'Neil jumpsuit. Sakurai shows up with all the food. Of course he does. Murasaki Bara is going to eat all of it. And Sakurai is kind of afraid of number 2. Oh, because he like kicked him last time. That's why he's afraid of number 2, because he kicked at him last time. That makes sense. But then the one for episode 46 is Murasaki Bara and Himuro show up. Sakurai is afraid in the corner, again, of number 2. I love that Sakurai is traumatized by number 2. Aomine has his hand on the wall with the white paint, so I feel like he's going to get it on his face, on his hand. And Momoe is trying to tell him about the blue paint. Kisei is painting next to him, and Kasamatsu looks kind of mad. Like, Kisei and Aomine are in a competition. It's funny. But then Himuro is on the phone with Alex. Again, Himuro, he seemed rude to Alex, but no, he likes her. He just has a lot of insecurities. And Murasaki Bara, he had to call up Akashi. Was he inviting Akashi to this painting thing? Is that who he's inviting to come paint with them? Akashi, meanwhile, is doing calligraphy. Will Akashi show up and try to paint? Will he try to take control of the mural? I guess we'll find out next episode set. But it's probably the weirdest thing is that Murasaki Bara almost seems like he's codependent upon Akashi. It's kind of bizarre, and I'm very curious to see what else we get from it in future episodes. But in any case, let's talk about the end cards. The end cards, again, the moment I saw the end credits for episode 46 and the end card for episode 44, I knew Himuro did not mean all the things he said to Alex, because 1, you had in the end credits him calling her, and 2, in this end card, there's him with the basketball, and he's looking at Alex like so endearingly, as Alex is like carrying little baby Kagami back, and he's like skinned up his knees, and she's gonna like probably put a band-aid on him. She is like a big sister and a mom to them, and Himuro just doesn't want to admit it anymore, but she is. I'm like, oh, I love it. I love how cute Kagami looks. He's like, looks like a little kid with his head on her shoulder. So freaking cute. I love it, right? It's adorable. Then we have the members of Yosen's team. I don't know the blonde one's name, but he's playing like the DS there, or the Switch. We have Lou. Lou is the one with the inky eyes, and he's like making hot pot. And then Okamura's like, they're all like sitting there watching TV together. It's really cute. I like them. And then, oh, this one here. Episode 46, the smolder of Teppei and Murasaki Bara with their ties. Murasaki Bara, I feel, is like the least consistent animated character, because at times he looks bored. Here it's kind of like an in-between. It's in between his bored look and his sexy look. There are times where this anime decides, we're going to make Murasaki Bara really hot. And it's like, okay. But then there are other times where he looks kind of derpy. So his animation is like the most inconsistent. Like the animators can't make up their mind which way they want to go. And maybe it's supposed to be like an on-off switch. Like when he's really in the zone, he gets really attractive. And when he's not, it's just like, eh. But he's in between in this image with Teppei. But very nice. It gives me vibes of Almine and Kagami from the last episode set. Gives me those vibes, right? Only it's Teppei and Murasaki Bara. But yeah, y'all, I'm very excited for the next episode set, but I'm also very nervous. So I guess we'll wait and see, right? But I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers. But I'm going to be interested to see what this whole deal with Akashi ends up being. There's some kind of promise that they've made, whatever that amounts to. But I'm going to be curious to know how this game's going to. I feel like the next 4 episodes, it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be like up and down. I'm going to feel terrible, hopefully wonderful. Hopefully they win. I feel like Seirine needs to win, but how they're going to do it, I don't know. So they're behind by 12. How you're going to make up for that deficit and get on top, I don't know how they're going to do it, y'all. But we're going to find out. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Kuroko's basketball. Bye.